What's up, everyone? A great coach is one that knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And today we have a great coach. Bill Hart is one of the best and most sought after coaches in the mortgage and real estate space. But really, he's coaching people every day in all walks of life. He recently authored his first book, White Collar Warrior. I've read it and found it to be so inspirational and a must read for sales executives in any industry. I mean, I could go on and on about Bill, his history in real estate, monthly audio, interviews of the best real estate agents. He's a keynote speaker and great presenter. He officiates weddings. Most importantly, he's a husband and a father and a grandfather. I'm so attracted to how happy and positive he is. I've watched Bill explode over the last few years, and the guy keeps getting better and better. Welcome, Bill.
Well, buddy, just so you know, I'm going to take that interview or that introduction, and I'm going to probably play it on all my stuff and all my talks, because I don't think it gets any better than that, Dan. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's an honor to have you as a guest. And like I said, I've just watched you grow. So the best and most recent news, your daughter's cancer-free.
She is cancer-free, man. Thank you.
That is so cool. And you've battled cancer as well and beat it. So
yeah,
you guys are batting 100, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, we're very, very grateful. We're blessed. And, it's those moments, as you know, Dan, having lived through it in the worst possible scenario. Those are the moments that really test us. And those are the moments that reveal your true metal, in our case, our faith, which is what makes all the difference. And may nobody who's listening to your podcast right now have to engage with any of that, but we're very grateful.
That's wonderful, Bill. And I'm so happy that was the outcome for sure. It's a challenge getting through it and staying focused on the rest of life. The rest of life almost stops until you get to the point of knowing. So I know how hard that must have been, both when you had it and watching somebody you love with it. So
yeah, for sure, man.
I also want to congratulate you on your first book publishing.
Thanks, buddy.
So good. Man, what first inspired you to write it?
Yeah, such a great question, because it doesn't seem like a natural bridge. So for listeners who are unfamiliar with the book, so the title is White Collar Warrior. The subtitle is Lessons for Sales Professionals from America's Military Elite. That doesn't seem like a natural fit. So here's where it came for me. 1% of our population serves our country in uniform, actually half of 1% at any given time. So the 99%, like me, that have never served our country in uniform, we get what we get about the military from relatives maybe that have served, or books that we've read, or movies that we've seen. And I was struck by the book Lone Survivor probably about 9 years ago, right? Later made into a major motion picture with Mark Wahlberg. And as a coach, Dan, I've coached people that make seven figures and have a hard time getting up at 7 a.m. Right? And so I look at, wow, okay, the extreme discipline that I read about in that book is really attractive to me as a coach. And I'll bet that there are some applications, and that's sort of my patriotism. I had always been very patriotic, but that's when it just exploded for me. And I started looking for, I'm going to say guys, because in the special operations world of our military right now, it's all men. But that's about to change. We have 2 women that have now passed Ranger School, and we'll start seeing women entering into the special forces. But for now, it's all guys. And so when I say guys, that's my term for the men that are currently in that role. And I started interviewing Navy SEALs and Army Rangers and one Top Gun instructor. And I'm telling you, Dan, it is uncanny to me, the wiring that they have, the way that they show up, I guess is what I would say. It's like I told Tom Ferry yesterday, if outliers had outliers, right? If the best of the best had a group that was the best of the best,
right?
That's who this group is. And so I just went looking for those, what are the common threads? And that's what composed the structure of the book.
And then you went, aha, that works with the people I coach.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, you do an incredible job at matching the two up for sure. How long did it take you to write the book?
Well, the honest answer is 6 years. From idea to holding a book in my hand. And for me, by the way, that was my Mount Everest. It was the day that the book arrived in the mail, and I could hold it in my hand and go, yes, it's real. I can feel it, right? So 6 years, but here's what that looked like. There it is, man. Here's what it looked like. It was, you can so picture this. 6 years ago, Sales Mastery, Palm Desert, back when Todd did the events exclusively in Palm Desert. Now they're in San Diego, which is smart, by the way. He lives in San Diego. Why wouldn't you? But yeah, it was Palm Desert at the Marriott Desert Springs at the Starbucks, 6 a.m., sitting there. I'll bet you can picture the very spot with Daniel Harkavy, my boss, the founder of Building Champions. Mm-hmm. He said, so you tell me you want to write a book. What's it about? And I said, yeah, I don't know. I just waffled, right? Like, not really sure. I just know I got a book in me. And Daniel, so he coached you, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was one of his early clients.
Nice.
A long time ago.
So the power of Daniel's questions followed by silence.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So he listens, right? And then he says, well, let me ask you a question. What do you think you're the best at? And I said, well, back then, it's probably been 15 years I've been interviewing top producing realtors every month. He said, okay, so you know how to interview. So, and what are you most passionate about? And I said, oh man, me and patriotism in the military. And at that time I was supporting Boot Campaign as an ambassador. Now I serve on their board of directors. I am like all in with Boot Campaign and helping our military. And he said, well, and you also have a passion for helping people connect the dots between where they are and where they want to be, right? As a coach. I said, yeah. And he said, I think that's your book. And I just leaned back and thought, wow, that is so good, dude. You are so right. So here's the best part of the story, Dan. So I live 3 hours west of Palm Springs. So, you would either Uber or take a car to the Palm Springs airport probably, or Ontario, and you'd fly out. For me, I'm driving out, right? So I'm driving down on the 10 with those huge windmills, right? Can you picture it? Yeah. And I'm driving along and my wife, Tony, is next to me, and I'm telling her about the conversation and how jacked I am about this. And this is really exciting. And all of a sudden I just looked at her and I said, white collar warrior. And she said, I love it. Oh yeah. It was like, I went from blank canvas to completed, painting in my mind. So anyway, that's where the idea came from. The book Lone Survivor inspired me. And then I just went about the business of finding out, so how do you even begin to interview a Navy SEAL or an Army Ranger? Because these guys are the silent professionals and can kill you with a spoon. Like, yeah. How do you even start that process? So that's where it began.
Wow. So what was the process? Did you write a little bit each day? How do you go about doing it?
Oh man. Seriously. I did the interviews because those were easy for me, right? I know how to interview. That was easy for me. So I just started the interview process through the charity. I was introduced to so-and-so. And now these days with social media, people look at who you know, right? Who your friends are. So once I got one, then, one guy, right? One Navy SEAL. And then so I invite somebody else and they see that I know this guy and I start kind of name dropping, right? So it's like I care about the community, right? I don't want to take advantage of it. I care about it. So I did the interviews first. I think I had 8 or 10 interviews done that first year.
Wow.
And I got crazy busy, Dan. You called it out. But at the same time, I had read Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Crush It. Right. Now, that is not to be confused with Crushing It. Crushing It is his latest book. But in Crush It, he said, you got to use video. Video is a game changer.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm all in. I will do that. And so, as you know, to the point of ad nauseum, there's no shortage of video of Coach Bill Hart talking about whatever. And so I started doing that in a big way. And suddenly I got really busy, thankfully, such a huge blessing, but I got really busy doing talks and keynotes and workshops and events more coaching to the point now where I'm trying to actually throttle it back the other way, where I'm coaching way fewer clients than I used to because
How many are you coaching?
I am still coaching. Yep.
How many?
I think now I probably have about 45 clients, but at the peak, I probably had 72, which is crazy. 72 clients so that means something. It's 30 minutes every 2 weeks is the way that we're structured. And my day is like a typical Monday through Wednesday for Bill is 7:30 to 9:30, 4 coaching sessions, 30-minute break, and as my wife would say, second breakfast, which is then 4 more sessions from 10 to noon, then a 2-hour lunch, which is, you'll love this. It is lunch, 27-minute nap, workout, back on the phone from 2 to 4. So it's 12 sessions a day, 3 days a week. And, when it was that 4 or 5 days a week, I have no time to do anything else. Right. So anyway, that's where I think this all started with, how long did it take to write it thing. And so what I'm saying is I got the interviews done, then I got busy, and then it just kind of got shelved. And it was like Bill's book, right, became kind of this, whatever. We hear you talking about it. So here's what I did. Weren't you in the Masters Coach at some point, Dan?
Early on, yeah.
So this is for listeners that are unfamiliar with this is our group of the best in the mortgage space that are in sales and sales leadership and direct production. And I told that group last year, 2017 in February, we were in the Montage in Laguna Beach. And I said, here's the deal, you guys. If I don't have a book this time next year, don't let me in the room. And they all laughed, right? But I wasn't kidding. Like, I need your accountability. I need to get this book done. So we hired a co-author that made all the difference in the world. Bill Blankshin brought structure to my idea. I tell people I have these Technicolor paint ideas that I splatter on the wall, but somebody's got to help me. Like my partner, Michael Regan in the Masters Coach, he thinks in a very linear fashion. And so he'll take my crazy Technicolor ideas and he'll chart something on a whiteboard, and it's like, yeah, that's it. Now I see it. And this co-author, Bill Blankshin, did the same thing. He took the ideas, he began to chunk it down. He helped me create chapters. He asked me questions. He interviewed me a lot. And so what I ended up with is a very readable book, Dan, and thank you for the compliments on it, but it's as much due to the co-author's work as it is to mine.
Well, so how'd you find him?
It was a referral through a referral. Daniel is working on his 3rd book now. He had written 2. He coached Mike Hyatt, who you probably know. And it was just one of those deals. We had hired a literary agent. So the literary agent takes the idea, they take the manuscript, right, and they go shop publishers. And that was a horrible experience. It was like, no. And then finally we got one that said, we see it. We see it. And so at that point we engaged with Bill as the co-author, and that stuff doesn't come inexpensively, but truly the product would not exist as it does without that structure. And Dan, here's something I figured out for me. People ask me why not Bill Hart Coaching? It's the same thing. I choose to partner. You would appreciate this in that word. I choose to partner with Building Champions because Building Champions has the structure, the systems, the CRM, the team. I can't do that on my own, right? So in the same reason that strong loan originators choose to join you and partner with you, they do that because they recognize the value that you bring. So I've just figured out, I know what I'm good at, but I know what I'm not good at, right? Mm-hmm. And so I partner, whether it's a co-author or a coaching company or a software or any system that I use, that keeps me in the zone of what I do the best.
Well, you're doing great at it. When's your next book?
What or when?
When?
I can't answer when, but it's close. I mean, it is close in the sense that I'm settling in on a concept. Here's what I'm leaning towards. I say in coaching a lot that we close gaps, right? We help clients to identify gaps between where they are and where they want to be. So I believe that the title of the next book will be Closing Gaps and then some clever subtitle. but it will be more just about what I've learned in the coaching chair. I've done this for 15 years. And I think that's a book that could help people to understand that, okay, cool. If I get clear on what I want to do, I create, as you well know, a life plan, a business vision, and a business plan. And then I just sort of reverse engineer my life into that place that I say I want to be. It's not that complicated. So my guess is the next book will be called Closing Gaps.
Out in about a year, right?
Sure.
So let's talk for a second about your social media growth. So,
yeah.
I mean, Bill, I see you everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, like you said, tons of video and blogs. And
yeah,
I mean, I friggin' love the personal brand that you're developing. It's so good and so relevant. I look so forward to hearing, what's going on with you, what's going on in that head of yours. How do you do it?
Well, thank you. First of all, it all started with that book, Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. So if somebody has a hunger for this and you want to do this at a higher level, I do think his latest book, Crushing It, is a great way to get there, because what he does is he uses anecdotal examples of actual business people using particular platforms, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, and he gives specific examples. So I think it really helps. The funny thing is, Dan, so at 63, I have clients often tell me, usually 50 and above, I'm just too busy for that. And I just process that and try and find a non-insulting way to say, you're not relevant. You called it out. You are not relevant. If you tell me that you're too busy, then at some point you're just going to become a dinosaur and nobody's going to do business with you. And that's just tragic, because you probably have a lot to offer. So I think relevancy is, you nailed it. I think that's the key, and I try and stay relevant. So my hunger, I don't know if you ever saw the video I did called White Paint, but that's what I call it. I call any of the books on the bookshelf right behind me here, that's all about white paint. I'm always hungry for new ideas, new thought leadership. What else can I do to bring value to my clients? I feel that responsibility as a coach, and I just kind of have a hunger for it. So I start there. And then honestly, Facebook has been the big one for me. And I know you're doing a lot of work on Facebook now too, because it's the big one, right? It's the largest social media platform. I don't know why you wouldn't play that game.
Right.
And what I wouldn't do, so if I were a realtor, everybody that's listening to this or watching this right now, I'm sure can identify with this. Real estate agents often, they get onto social media and all they talk about is their new listing.
Right.
It's a mistake. And here's what I mean by that. It's like if you showed up at a party and said, hey, I got a brand new listing. I got all these flyers here. I'm just going to hand them out to all the people at the party. Like you'd never be invited back.
Right.
Right. So instead, I think you've got to be two things. I think you've got to be interested. That's my white paint thing. And then I think you become interesting. Right. Be interested and become interesting. And then just all I do every day, I know you can't see it if we're just doing audio, but this is a list of all my coaching clients for the day. It's just a piece of paper. And as thoughts come up to me, Dan, as I make observations through coaching sessions, I'll just make a note, I should talk about that. That's something that I think would be relevant to people. And then if I start to see a pattern, then that's the next blog post. That's how it works for me anyway.
Well, yeah. So, when I look at real estate agents, I want to know who they are. I want to know what they're about and what they stand for, and get to like them first. Know who they are and like them, and then at some point, I think people will trust them. But so, do you do it all yourself? I mean,
I do.
You write your blogs and you do your vlogs and you do your.
I do. Yeah. So, here's what that means. I have a guy that put together my blog, CoachBillHart.com, on WordPress. Meaning all of that technical stuff, again, with me and systems, right? I've got to have somebody else do that. And then I just show up as the talent, right? I just bring my paint to the vehicle. So the blog I had to have created, but I can do all the blog postings there. All it is I record it, upload it to YouTube. You take the embed code, you drop it in, and just write a little description. I mean, it's a ridiculously simple process. On the other platforms, honestly, you just use the platform, right? And something I'm guilty of, Dan, I should be using Facebook Live a lot more right now, but it's intimidating, right? Because it's like you can't, there's no second takes. You got to just kind of fly without a net. You often see people starting it like sideways, and you got to figure that out. So, but Facebook Live is the thing that gets you the most eyeballs right now. So it's on my radar screen. You'll start seeing me do more Facebook Live. But yeah, but I just do it all myself. And I'll tell you that on Instagram, one of the things that has been really helpful to me is I had a woman design a logo for me for Coach Bill Hart with a microphone. And she said there is an app by Adobe called Spark, and it's $9.99 a month. It's not cheap, but it allows you to take a graphic. This would be perfect for you, by the way, because I start to see your stuff coming up. And the more that you can brand it, Dan, so that you've got your name or the name of the podcast or whatever it is looking consistent each and every time. Right. That's a great way to do it. And you can use your own pictures. They have rights-free images you can use, but it helps you to, if you've noticed, like some of my graphics are looking a little more professional, that's where that comes from. And dude, $10 a month, give me a break.
Yeah, no question. I'm all over that. I'm meeting with my brand guy today at 2, and
nice.
We're kind of at the final stage of that.
Nice. He's
presenting, some logo options today, Sweet. And so we'll see. So do you do it first thing? I mean, how do you time block? So when you've got back-to-back coaching calls,
yeah.
When do you typically do your social
work? Yeah. I just do them during coaching sessions. I pretend I'm listening to clients, and I'm just.
I like it.
So you'll hear at the other end, oh, how do you explain that? No, that's not happening at all. I just do it in between stuff. I'll do something at lunch. I'm pretty ad hoc about it. And you know me, you've seen my stuff. For me, I'm not saying this works for everybody, but I sort of think in terms of buckets, right? So as far as content, I've got a motivational bucket. So, this is the time of year as we're recording this, we're starting to look 5 weeks out at Halloween, and in this business what happens, and I call it pumpkin spice syndrome, right? At Halloween, we start getting distracted by the holidays, and we should. I mean, I get that. But if you're in this business or real estate, you need to lean in right now, right? Yeah, for the next 5 weeks, man, you need to lean in. So I recently did a message on that. So that's one bucket. The other bucket is kind of an educational bucket. So I've got inspirational, I've got educational, and that's just something that I think somebody needs to know or it would benefit them. And the third bucket for me is I just call it entertainment. And it's just humor, right? It's something that I think is humorous or interesting, or it's got something to do with, like you called out the fact that I recently officiated at a wedding, right? That you'll see that up there like, interesting. Yeah, Coach Bill did a wedding. Awesome. But that's the entertainment side, right? So for me, it's all about inspiration, education, entertainment. If you can just think in terms of buckets, because here's what I find, Dan, with people when they finally get engaged, they're like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to talk about. Right?
Yeah, I get it.
So may the buckets bring you value.
No question. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
So you're having obviously a ton of dialogue with real estate agents and at all levels, rookies, seasoned vets, executives. So it gives you a tremendous perspective on what's going on out there. What excites you and fires you up the most?
On the real estate side?
Real estate, mortgage.
Yeah.
So you're coaching, I'm sure, both and executives. And
yeah.
What's firing you up?
I mean, in those industries, right, which we could call our industry, you and me, I think the thing that I'm probably most excited about, Dan, and this is actually something we're going to be focusing on with the Masters Coach 2019, is gaining market share and taking ground. I am probably more excited about that than anything that I've seen in the last 10 years. In other words, there's a bit of an evolution that's going on right now. And what we see is, the old 80-20 rule is probably more like 97-3. Where 3% of the realtors are doing 97% of the volume. An easy example of that, a woman not far from you in Napa Nicole Solari, has only been in the business 4 years, and she sold 200 homes last year.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I mean, right? And she's probably 30, and she's just built this machine. And I think that's the thing that's the most exciting to me. So when I look at people that are still slugging it out one deal at a time, again, I kind of feel about that the way that I do about a lack of utilization of social media. It's like, man, why would you just continue to do that? If you're going to be in the game, like, be in the game and figure out how to build something that is relevant. I'm not saying everybody should have a huge team. I don't mean that, but it's more about the industry is both industries, both mortgage and real estate are getting more complex, not less.
No question.
Right? So if you can figure out a way to, like I kind of have as a coach and now as an author, to say, this is my sweet spot. This is where I need to spend my time, right? So if I'm a realtor, that's probably going to be initially like listing appointments. My calendar needs to be full of listing appointments. So maybe I need to have a buyer's agent, right, to show buyers. And maybe I need to have a better CRM or a better system around it. So I'm staying in touch with people. On the mortgage side, we could say the same thing. Refis are largely going away. We're moving more towards a more purchase market, right?
Yeah.
What am I doing to be relevant to that market? And is it just spending more money on Zillow? I question that. I'm not so sure that's the smartest move.
Right.
So optimization, I guess, is what I would say, Dan, if I was going to fly one flag word over that whole kind of gaining market share thing. It's like optimization. I think the last 10 years have been a good run. And I think smart people have saved money, right, for a season like this. And now's the time to gain market share.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what, anything worry you and keeping you up at night? And more importantly, what do you do to overcome those concerns?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have those concerns. I think I always, I don't mean to sound Pollyanna about that. But I don't. I think that it's because I'm constantly looking for, you probably heard this term years ago, like I did from Tony Robbins first. The Japanese have a term called Kaizen, Kaizen, constant and never-ending improvement. It's the way I'm wired, man, whether it's my golf game or the way I'm going to write or show up in a coaching session or be a husband or parent or grandfather. I want to be the best version of me that I can be. And for that reason, I don't think outside and external factors concern me much, because I
love that, man.
I want to be as strong as I can.
And learning and improving every day. And I think that's really your brand, quite frankly. That's what I get out of it. I get out of you doing so much. So your schedule obviously is jammed. How do you keep your eyes on the long game when you're grinding every day?
Yeah, great point, man. And I've seen you post on that, and I love that you're asking that question. So I'm going to answer the question this way. I get an email from a guy, top realtor in another state, and he's speaking at an event, and somebody comes up to him, relatively obscure name in the coaching business, and says, hey, you'd be a great coach. So he emails me and says, hey, what do you think? I'm sort of thinking about this. And, this is a guy that's doing 100 units a year as a realtor. He's successful. And so I responded thoughtfully, not just quickly, and said, that sounds to me like what I call in coaching opportunity whack-a-mole. Do you remember with your kids at Chuck E. Cheese? Do you remember the whack-a-mole game?
I do. I do.
So, opportunity whack-a-mole in my vernacular is when an opportunity pops up in front of you and you look at it and go, wow, yeah, that thing, I should do that thing. And so what I asked him to consider is, that might be the greatest opportunity for you, or it might be a horrible idea. Here's what I would suggest you do. First of all, I think coaching is a calling. I don't think that's something that you just shift gears and say, I've done this and now I think I'm going to go coach. I think you could, but I think the best coaches have a passion. They have an internal fire about wanting to help people close gaps, right? So that's what I think. But I sent him a copy of our life planning tool and business vision and said, here's what I would ask you to do. Take a day. You deserve a day. Take a day and get away and get quiet and get free of the interruptions and just determine where it is that you want to wind up. Dan, you've done this process, you know this, but to play the long game, I think we have to, as Stephen Covey said in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I think we have to begin with the end in mind, right? Where do I want to end up? Yeah. And then
that's what I'm doing. It's I mean, I'm wired about the long game. In fact, so much so that oftentimes, I mean, I got to really focus on being present, because I'm so excited about planning and life later. And I've, I test high in the futuristic skills and visionary skills, but, staying today is where I have to work. I mean, I think we're going to live a lot longer than, previous generations, especially if you keep learning and you stay healthy, emotionally healthy, physically healthy, have people surrounding you that you love and doing work that has a purpose for you. I think we're going to potentially live a long time. And there's some studies that are showing that in a 10 to 15 years that, we could live forever. And I don't know about that, but I know that, another 50 years is definitely possible. And when you take that perspective, we're just starting. So we've learned so much, and that fuels me because, when you look at failure, I mean, it means nothing. That's the advice I give, young people. When they fail at something, it's a big deal. You got so much time. And I get excited about the long game. I like people how they want their life to be in their 80s, in their 90s, and make choices and decisions today to have that be your result. Don't wait till 84 to decide, how do I want my life to be? Get it going now.
In Daniel's book, Living Forward, I highly recommend that read to everybody who's listening right now on this topic. He talks about the enemy being the drift, right? And the drift, if you're out on a boat or a paddleboard or swimming, we all know what that's like in the ocean. It's that undercurrent, right, that begins to take you away. And wow, wait a minute, my stuff is there on the beach and now it's there on the beach. What happened? But that happens in life as well. I was just talking to a friend the other day from church, actually, and they're from Australia, and his wife was a nurse in Australia, and they've got this issue with her getting her nursing certification here. And he said, she looked at me the other day and said, how is it that I went from being a nurse earning $70 an hour to working at Pottery Barn for minimum wage? Like, how did that happen? Well, there was a drift, right? Now that we can explain that, well, okay, there was a certification that didn't transfer here and she's got to get that class resolved in Australia, and then California's got to, but whatever. I mean, we all have some kind of drift. And I just think there's a moment in time, whether it's in our relationships or in our business, where we just have to stop and say, hang on, I can just keep running on this treadmill flat out, or I can make some time to get intentional about where I want to go. I coach a woman right now. So for those of you in the mortgage industry, you'll appreciate this. $100 million producer, 30 units a month. She is a competitor. And we're talking about how she is just flat out every day. I mean, it's like driving a 66 Mustang through the Arizona desert at 120. And at some point, there's going to be steam coming out from under the hood and the hubcaps are going to start wobbling, and she's feeling that, right? And I said, okay, I don't just dictate action plans very often, but this one was just like from me to her. It said, okay, here's the deal. Every other week, every other Friday, I want you to take off at 3:00. Let your whole team know that. And then you go do the thing that feeds your soul. For her, it's actually riding her bike, right? She just wants to get on her bike. It just clears her head. For me, it's going to a driving range. I put in headphones and I just listen to music that feeds my soul while I beat balls, right? Poorly, but doesn't matter. But it's my therapy, right, is my point. And so for her, she would tell you this is now the thing that she most looks forward to, is that headspace. So as you're listening to this right now, you've heard Dan talk about the long game. I would so strongly recommend that you set some time aside and get quiet and contemplative about what's important to you, what you want it to look like down the road, and then start making decisions and choices that hit your calendar, right? That hit your calendar that will get you to where you want to go. That's how I play the long game.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, I'm all about well-being. I mean, it's our culture. I speak often about balance. Sometimes, I've been accused of almost too much, not enough about mortgage, just more about well-being, because that's a passion of mine. How do you stay balanced?
I mean, my first response to that, I guess, is my faith. For me, it really comes back to my faith. And I know that's a deeply personal thing, and I'm not here to, preach to others about that. But for me, that's the thing that matters the most. Is it centers me, and it allows me to just have a perspective on everything else about what really matters. If you saw my video shoulder taps, that's now had 20 million views.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Right. But that was the message. Yeah, thanks. It was a little 2-minute video, and it was just about saying, you know what? I get these urgings. I call them shoulder taps. When I listen to them, good things happen. My belief is that's God tapping me on the shoulder saying, psst, she needs to hear this message. Psst, you need to say that to him. And I'm telling you, for 50 years, I never listened to him. I blew them off. I ignored them. And now I'm just listening to them more. So for me, that's really it. Right. And the other thing is, I just seem to have, I don't know how to teach this, but today I'll be done at 4:00, and my wife, Tony, and I will get in the car, and it's not uncommon. We start to run errands or whatever, right? Like people do. And we'll be talking, and all of a sudden I won't realize it, but I'll just do this heavy sigh. Right. And she'll go, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just letting it go." I'm just letting it go, right? Because I'm taking in people's stuff all day long. But the good news is, Dan, it doesn't seem to build on me. I think that's how I let it go, man. There's just this moment of release, and then I'm fully present. And I guess I would say this. You mentioned I'm a cancer survivor. I'm actually now a 3-time cancer survivor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, dude, ridiculous. Like colon, melanoma, and squamous cell on the top of my ear that they did the Mohs procedure on. Wow. And a heart attack 3 years ago.
That's right.
Right? So I've got a stent in my right coronary artery, and presumably I'm much healthier than I ever have been in a cardiovascular sense. And I work out and eat reasonably. So this was a genetic thing. But that gives you enormous perspective, right? That I truly view every single day as a gift, truly. I wish there was a way to get it without going through those experiences. So, here's a flash drive inserted in the side of your head that, okay, boom, note to self. I don't have to have that experience to recognize every single day as a gift. That's where balance really comes from.
Well, I think listening to people, certainly like you, if just pay attention, just sap the learning out of people who've been through these experiences. I mean, there's some experiences that have been challenging and brutal that I know I could be of help to people.
For sure.
And hopefully they hear it. Well, Bill, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for your time today. I mean,
my pleasure, man.
How can people get a hold of you?
You bet. Coach Bill Hart is probably the easiest way to do it. You can go to coachbillhart.com or just do a search anywhere for Coach Bill Hart, or reach out to Building Champions.
Fantastic. Bill, thank you so much. And
my pleasure, man.
All right, man. Thank you.
Continued success in all you do, Dan.
Thanks, Bill. Bye-bye.